about this. Something's not right. What's going on? Oh,
Hey, Grumpy Monkey, what are you doing?
I think we have a problem.
What kind of problem?
I've been reading this nonfiction book about frogs, and I don't think that this is a frog.
What? What are you talking about? Of course it's a frog.
I don't know. Some details in the text say that frogs have webbed feet, and that they have smooth skin, and that they have long legs that jump far. This frog doesn't have that.
Huh, well that's weird, because this whole time I thought he was a frog. If he's not a frog, what else could he be?
I think he's a toad.
What's the difference between a frog and a toad?
I don't know.
Hey guys, Grumpy Monkey, Rambunctious Puppy. What are you talking about?
This whole time we thought this was a frog, but I was making new connections and now I think it's a toad.
You know what? I hadn't even thought about maybe he's not a frog at all. I saw this thing jumping around, and he looked like a frog to me, and so I just called him a frog. But you guys are right. Maybe he's a toad.
Well, what's the difference between a frog and a toad anyway?
That's a great question, Rambunctious Puppy. And the answer is actually, I don't know what the difference between a frog and a toad is.
Maybe we could try to figure it out somehow.
You're right. I want to know for sure what our little friend is, if he's a frog or a toad. But you know what I have that could help us figure that out?
Is it a book?
You're right. I have a nonfiction book about frogs and toads. Maybe after we read it, we can make some connections and figure out exactly what kind of amphibian our new friend is, okay? So let's take a look and get into this book. Ready?
Toads and frogs. Toads and frogs. Toads. Toads have warty, bumpy skin. Most have dull colors. Their skin looks dry. Toads can spend periods of time away from water. Many have poison glands behind their eyes. The glands make a milky liquid that burns predators. Many toads puff themselves up so predators can't swallow them. This caption over here says, some people believe touching a toad can cause warts, but this is not true. Toads have short, fat bodies. Their heads are round. Their toes are not usually webbed. They are not good jumpers. Their legs are good for short hops and for digging. Toads dig burrows with their back legs. They sleep through the winter in these burrows. This caption says, cane toads are from Central and South America, but they have spread to other places, including Australia and parts of the United States. Frogs. Frogs have smooth skin. Some are brownish and greenish. Others have bright colors. Their skin looks shiny. Frogs stay near water. They need to keep their skin wet. Some frogs make poison under their skin. Frogs have thinner bodies than toads. Their heads are pointed. Very long legs make them good jumpers. Many have webbed toes on their back legs. This helps them swim. Tree frogs use sticky pads on their front toes for climbing. Some people build ponds in their gardens for frogs to live in. What's the difference? Toads have bumpy, dry skin and short legs for digging. They can live away from water. Frogs have smooth, moist skin and long legs for jumping. They stay close to water. There are many types of toads and frogs. They are all closely related. Some have features of both frogs and toads. Some toads are smooth, some frogs live in dry places, but they are all exciting. And this says toads can be found on every continent except Antarctica. And here's our diagram. Check this out. Toads. It's labeling what they have. Bumpy skin, short, fat bodies, take short hops, spend the winter in burrows, lay eggs in long tubes, and their feet are not webbed. The frog has a thin body, smooth skin, webbed feet, good jumper, freeze during the winter, and lay eggs in bunches. That is the end of our book.
Okay, so now we have some details about frogs and toads.
I think there's a little problem.
What's the problem, Rambunctious Puppy?
You said frogs and toads, but look at your chart. It just says frogs.
I see. This chart was great for making connections about frogs, but today we're making connections about frogs and toads. So why don't we do a little switcheroo here? Ready? All right, much better. Friends, this is a different kind of chart. This type of chart is called a Venn diagram. On Venn diagrams, we get to compare two different things and see how they are the same and how they're different. You can see from my Venn diagram that today we're comparing frogs and toads. In this circle, we are going to write details that we learn about frogs. In this circle, we're going to write details that we learn about toads. And can you guess what we're going to put in the middle? I think you're right. We're going to write things that are true about both frogs and toads. So we're going to be making a lot of connections today. Now to get things started, can you think of something that's true for frogs and toads that I could write under both?
Amphibians! They're both amphibians!
Rambunctious Puppy is right. Frogs and toads are both amphibians. So I think that is the first thing that I'm going to write on my chart. In the middle of my Venn diagram, I'm going to write amphibians because frogs and toads are both amphibians. Well, we know something about both of them. They're both amphibians. But now I need to think about how frogs might be different from toads.
I know.
Oh, yeah?
The frogs have long legs and toads have short legs.
Ooh, good point. Grumpy Monkey says that frogs have long back legs and toads have short legs. So that means on the frog side, I'm going to write long legs. Long legs. On the toad side, if frogs have long legs, what do you think I'm going to write under toads? Short legs. That's exactly right. Short legs.
Mr. Elsie, I have a connection.
Oh, okay.
The frog's long legs help them hop really far.
You are absolutely right, Rambunctious Puppy. Frogs use their long legs to make big hops. Big hops.
And that means toads use theirs for short hops.
Grumpy Monkey, your brain is so strong. Frogs use their long legs for big hops. Toads use their short legs for small hops. We've made some connections so far about frogs, toads, and how they're both amphibians. But now, it's time to figure out what this animal is. To do that, we're gonna have to make some connections of our own.
When I first found our amphibian friend, I felt his skin, and it was very, very bumpy and dry.
Based on our texts, which type of amphibian has bumpy skin?
We think it's a toad.
I agree. Toads have bumpy skin. When my friends do their Venn diagram later, they could write bumpy skin under toads because frogs have smooth skin. So, our friend had bumpy skin, and then when we put him in this terrarium, this box, he tried to jump out, but his legs weren't quite long enough to get him out of this box. Which type of amphibian makes small hops? Toad! You're right! So based on those two connections, I'm gonna say that this little guy was a toad. This whole time, we thought he was a frog, but he's really a toad! I'm glad we read that text so that we could understand what kind of animal he was. So now we've made connections and compared frogs and toads. Now it's your turn. You are going to get to make your own Venn diagram where you tell us things about just frogs, just toads, how they are different, and even how they are the same. And in the meantime, I think this little guy has lived in the terrarium long enough, so I'm gonna go set him free. Maybe I'll show you a video of that later. Good luck on your assignment today, friends. See you next time.